There's a myth that you cannot have a great physique and a great looking body if you are vegan or vegetarian. So today I decided to invite Mylique Rivera because he has the potential to break that myth. One look at him and he's going to burst that bubble. I'm going to be talking to Mylique about his vegan diet and vegetarianism, and I'm going to be discussing with him why I turned a vegetarian. And a lot of you who are intrigued about the whole concept of turning vegan or vegetarian, this interview is going to have all the information that's going to help you to make that choice. Hi Mylique, welcome to my show and thank you so much for being here with me today.
Thank you.
I actually happened to randomly see your Instagram profile which said that you are a vegan athletic coach. And I did not know that a profession like that exists. It was refreshing and really delightful because I'm a vegetarian. I'm not a vegan, but I'm a vegetarian. And I really wanted to know how did this transition or this transformation happen? Because I'm assuming that you were not born into a vegetarian family, right?
Yes, correct. Yeah, absolutely. First off, thank you so much for having me. I appreciate it, and I'm looking forward to this. So, yeah, I didn't expect to go vegan. I didn't, start off with any education or any formal education around understanding what veganism was. To me, it was the same thing as a vegetarian, just another name. And my whole family, we grew up eating meat most of my life, so it wasn't ever anything that was on the table as far as a plant-based lifestyle, plant-based nutrition. My aunt had tried out a vegetarian lifestyle for a little bit, and she was always like the oddball out to us because we were the ones that ate meat all the time. So when it came to pursuing my vegan journey, I actually had a friend that was vegan for about 4 years, and I was actually on a work trip with him, and I just thought, I'm going to be vegan throughout this trip and I'm going to see what this entails, because this friend was actually very in shape. So they're very in shape, focused a lot on bodybuilding, a similar background to me, just a vegan athlete. So I was always curious on how that came to be. Like, how do you look like this and you only eat plants? So it always intrigued me. But I myself thought I could never do that. I was always the person that was eating probably about anywhere from 2 pounds to 2.5 pounds of meat a day on a bodybuilding lifestyle diet. So it was very different from what I was used to. But after that trip, I realized, wow, it's not a hard lifestyle. It's just a more intentional lifestyle. So we have to focus on different things. Being a vegan means that we have to pull protein sources from different outlets, not just one outlet. So that was intriguing to me. That changed my perception around veganism. And a week after that, I was big into fasting. So after a 24-hour fast, I didn't eat for 24 hours, and then I was like, I'm going to break my fast with something. And then I was at the grocery store and I decided, hey, I think today's the day I'm going to go vegan and I'm going to try it. And it was in one day, which was very odd to me, but I'm an all-in type of person. So if I'm going to do something, I'm going to do it right there and then when I make that decision. And I felt like originally it wasn't really for any ethical reason. It was more so just to see what it would do to my body, more physiological.
Right.
It was to see how I could challenge myself with my nutrition and if I could actually adapt to a new diet. Mm-hmm. So, a few months in, it stuck. My energy levels were the highest they could be. And I never looked back, and it's been 3 years. And then it became more ethical. So it became more of me focusing on the animal rights behind it and the reasons for a lot of other vegans that have transitioned. Why did they transition? Well, more of the ethical reasons. And that stuck for me after. And that's what really sold me into the more of the longevity side behind staying vegan.
What is the primary difference that you notice after you made the shift? Is there any kind of difference that you notice, maybe on an energy point of scale? Is there a kind of difference that you feel like more positive or something like that?
Yeah, well, I do really believe in the vibrational pull of energies. So for me, again, now it's not consuming another life to feed my own.
Right.
So I feel like that makes me feel a lot more, conscious, but my energy levels are just a lot more clean, I guess you could say, in a way, because I'm not taking a life force and using it for my own energy.
Right.
I felt the mental clarity hit. So the mental clarity is very big for me. Not feeling that like brain fog, something that I felt a lot more before. and also this heavy feeling. My recovery is a lot better. My energy levels throughout the day so high. My performance throughout my workouts, I'm able to move a lot better. I'm not as inflamed. Inflammation is very low, so that enables me to be recovered faster, which is a huge benefit as an athlete, as a coach.
Do you see a lot of people coming to you intrigued about veganism, vegetarianism, and asking you, why are you a vegan?
Yeah.
Or do you think that people are more like they're challenging your mentality and challenging the choice that you have made?
Yeah, I mean, I see both sides. There's people that are super curious about it. They're very intrigued by the fact that I'm able to, one, maintain my muscle and look like this on a plant-based diet. And they've also seen my process. A lot of the people that have been with me for a while, whether it's my clients, my friends, my family, or other followers that I've had, they've seen my process. So they've seen me go from eating meat and the quantities of meat and of meat that I was eating into this lifestyle where now I'm posting my food and it's completely different. So I get both sides, and I get the people that challenge it on thinking that it's not a real thing.
Yeah.
Some people say that I'm probably not vegan and there's no way that I could do this on a plant-based lifestyle or a plant-based diet. But I think it's just, the education behind it and understanding that aren't always going to be understood, but you have to try them. I didn't understand it until I got into it. But now, I've generated this this following of people who are actually care. So now it's not only, I would say my body is the vessel to helping people understand veganism, because a lot of the times if I didn't look like this, I feel like people wouldn't always listen. So this is like it's like the sign, right? The immediate sign, and the body is used as a vessel in order to create more education for it. So that's kind of where I stand on it, what I see on a daily basis. But people are intrigued, people are ready to learn, I feel like, in this day and age. Veganism is very up and coming.
Right. Okay, so in India, being vegetarian is a cultural thing. And one of the reasons a lot of people told me that they are not going to make that choice and not become vegetarians is they were like, what if I travel abroad? What if there is a day where there's nothing to eat and I have to survive on meat? So I'm like, what if there's a day where there's nothing around? What are you going to do? You're not going to eat random animals out there. You have to suffer that day. So I want to know from you, how easy is it to find vegan stuff outside? Because in India, at least, we have yogurt, we have byproducts of milk. Yeah. So is it very difficult for you and very challenging when you travel to find vegan stuff?
I would say yes and no. I guess I'm always very prepared. I've been doing this for so long that even as a coach, I'm always looking at it from an analytical perspective. What am I going to expect? Am I going to travel to this place and there's not going to be options? So I have to be prepared with stuff on my own. So if I'm in the airport, which I do travel a lot, for work, so I will pack meals with me to start my flight, and a lot of the times people don't know this, but there are ways to get in certain foods that you want, especially if you put them into containers yourself. So everything that I always do when I'm traveling on a flight, I will always pack my stuff. But I found that, again, veganism is very up and coming. So you will find many places here, especially in the States, that are accommodating to vegans and people on a plant-based diet.
I think KFC has come up with plant-based burgers, right?
Yeah, they're coming out with some plant-based options for sure.
That's great, because we still don't have it in India, and I'm really waiting for that day when KFC burgers are vegan burgers.
Yeah.
Have you heard of Ayurveda?
Yes. I actually have a dietitian and an MD that I'm working with right now, and they're having me follow a structure similar to that.
Right. So Ayurveda is like an ancient 5,000-year-old medical science on alternative healing, holistic healing. So everything that you have is like herbs and roots, and you do all your cure using natural products. So Ayurveda has always encouraged drinking milk, in India especially. It's like a 5,000-year-old tradition. And one of the reasons is that in India you have A2 cows and A2 milk. But in the Western world you have A1 cows which give A1 milk, which is not good. A lot of people don't know this, but there's a lot of data to back this fact. The A1 milk is not very nutritious and it also has proteins that are harmful. But the A2 milk that we have in India is very nourishing. So Ayurveda encourages drinking milk and using the byproducts of milk like, like cottage cheese and butter and clarified butter, which is ghee. In fact, ghee is an excellent lubricant for our bones. It's also very good for our digestion. And that's exactly why I wouldn't really say that in India it's bad or harmful to indulge in milk. So being vegan is not really required in India, but maybe yes, in the Western countries, yes, because I'm really against the whole concept of machine milking. The Ayurvedic manuscripts 5,000 years back, they actually encouraged every household to own a cow and to look after it, to nurture it, to give it love and affection, to treat it like a family member. And then of course, the calf was well fed. And then of course the cow allowed itself to be milked by human hands and, allowed its master to consume its milk. So it was like a whole culture, I would say that today, if people want to be a vegetarian in India, you can indulge in milk, definitely you can indulge in milk, but make sure that you choose brands that have milk from ethical farms. That's something I'm very particular about. If not vegan, what kind of vegetarian diet would you suggest to athletes in India and of course all over the world?
Yeah, so I'm big on healthy fats for athletes and obviously protein as a staple, but in regards to like what you could eat for them, healthy fats, again, like avocado, flaxseed meal, these things that are going to be pretty substantial as far as creating a long source of energy. And then obviously your immediate sources of energy, your carbohydrates, like a quality carbohydrates. I like to do a jasmine rice and like a red potato, even regular Idaho potato. Any potatoes honestly they have similar nutrient profiles to steak actually. The red potato is very bioavailable, so we use a great amount of it in terms of the micronutrients, the macronutrients, and it hits us a lot differently than, let's say, like a pasta, for example. So you want to have a good relationship with these long sustainable sources of carbohydrates along with your fats. So avocado, flaxseed meal, could be hemp seed as well for those healthy fats, which is also high in protein.
Yeah, flax seeds are definitely available in India. I'm not very sure about hemp seeds. But yeah, flax seeds are. Okay, so there are millets, there are pulses. Do you also indulge in pulses and millets in your diet?
Are they wheat based?
Yeah, they are, yeah.
Yeah.
Some of them are, some of them.
So I'm gluten free.
Oh, you're gluten free.
So I don't consume any wheat as well. So I'm vegan and gluten free.
If you're allergic to gluten, then I think you should stay away. But if you're not allergic, I don't think there's a reason, right? Or do you think it's still harmful? What do you think? What's your view about gluten?
Yeah, so I never like to label anything as good or bad, right? It's only how you interact with it. So for me, I noticed that I do have a lot of inflammation from gluten. Now, do I have an intolerance? Maybe there's a little bit of an intolerance. There's no celiac or anything. There's nothing present in me that would say like I need to eliminate it for health reasons.
Okay.
However, I do feel like my digestion is affected by it because I consume so many calories. When I do consume wheat, it's consumed in excess.
Yeah.
So again, anything in excess, we should always have things in moderation. So I do encourage people to watch your gluten intake and to even pay attention to how it affects your body.
Okay. So if I want a very chiseled look on my face, do you think gluten could be a reason to cause like puffiness? Do you think so?
Absolutely. Yes, for sure.
Oh, okay, okay.
Which is when I would encourage you.
I actually shifted to gluten because I would consume only rice at night. Okay, imagine I would consume rice at night as my my dinner, and then I made the shift to gluten and I started having the Indian rotis that are famous in India. So I saw a difference. I actually thought it made me more chiseled when I shifted to gluten for some reason. I don't know.
Yeah, I mean, like I said, everybody interacts different.
Everybody, yeah. Okay, so my next question is that if there are actors and models and just about anybody who doesn't want to be too beefed up and pumped up, but just wants to have a little, like a good enough physique, athletic physique, what kind of diet do you suggest them?
So if we're trying to focus on just like staying in optimal shape, having a healthy cardiovascular, building muscle, but not building too much, your body's only going to give you what you give it. So if you give it an extra amount of calories, right, like a surplus, for example, then it's going to grow. But if you give it your maintenance, or you give it a little bit below your maintenance, then you should stay pretty lean. You should still stay in the realm of like, acting and modeling.
Right.
I think the goal is always to be a little bit more, like cut down, not as bulky, right, if you will.
To lose calories, yeah, basically, yeah.
Yeah, exactly. And again, I always say still focus on protein because that's going to help you stay satiated. You might not have to have it to an excess. Like right now, my protein, for example, is usually at about 180 to 200 grams a day of protein, which is a lot.
Okay.
Like a normal person doesn't need to consume that much. But again, I have a lot of muscle mass to maintain. So for a normal person, you could get away with having 100 grams of protein a day, maybe 120, if that, if you're someone that is, training often. Even in your cardiovascular stuff, it's just going to help you stay satiated. But focusing more on the fats, the healthy fats and the fiber is huge.
Yeah, yeah.
Especially if you're trying to stay conscious with your weight.
Right.
If you're trying to not gain too much weight, stay slim. Fiber content, vegetables, healthy fats, again, the flax seeds, the chia seeds, hemp seeds, almond meal as well, nut butters. Nuts are essential. Nuts can help you with fiber as well. And then your healthy carb sources. I think the issue with carbs is that they're so demonized, but having small carb sources with your meals are going to get you a lot further than having massive carb sources with your meals. Because what do carbs do? When they hit you, they are immediately converted to glucose. So when you eat too much glucose, it's converted into fat. So that's why we want to make sure we're having these carbohydrates in moderation, right? Not having them in heavy amounts with every single meal, strategically placing them along with our healthy fats.
Okay.
Always stacking these macronutrients, if you will, protein, carb, and fat efficiently, so that way you're not over consuming in either category.
Okay. What about junk food?
Yeah.
How often do you give in to them?
Yeah, it's funny. I just went out to dinner actually with my girlfriend. We went out to have ramen.
Oh.
So we had ramen tonight, and again, that was gluten free. But that's technically like our cheat meal. I always say like veganism and protein, it's like, imagine like a big tree of protein that you see everything that vegans eat.
Right.
You can pick many different things and bring them together. And that's where you get your protein from. If you're eating let's say like a carnivore diet, for example, and you're eating meat all the time, if you look on the tree, there really is only 4 things. It's pork, beef, chicken, and seafood. So people will always say to me, like, there's not many options in a plant-based diet. But I'm like, there's not many options in an alternative diet either. We're all really eating the same things.
Like, do you have protein powders? Do you believe in that concept of protein powders?
So I'm a big believer in the organic way, like, having things that are more wholesome. But when I do have the protein powder, I make sure that I'm grabbing different types of foods to put together. So I get all the macronutrients, all the micronutrients together. I don't demonize protein powder. I think it's just the right protein powder that you're taking, doing your research and making sure that it's affecting your body properly.
But in the long run, do you think protein powders can be harmful? Do you think so?
Yeah, no, absolutely. I think, again, like we have these functions in our body, i.e. in particular, our liver and our kidneys, right? So our liver is used to process things that are essentially foreign, right? Alcohol, certain substances, and our kidneys will, again, excrete those, and they'll filter that out as well. So you can have a lot of damage on those 2 body parts, right, like your liver and your kidney, if you're consuming ridiculous amounts of protein powder. So that's why I only recommend usually 2 scoops a day on average if you're somebody that is using it often.
Oh, okay.
And to keep track of what's happening with your body, we have to be like advocates for our bodies because these things do have an effect on us, right? They're not the whole quality source.
Right.
And then in terms of our digestion, the digestion is it affects us again on that level as well. So if you're consuming whey protein powder, for example, for people that consume dairy, most of those protein powders have a lot of fillers as well. So those are harder on the digestion. That's why I do recommend, even before I was vegan, I recommended consuming vegan protein. It's a lot easier on the digestive tract and the gut. I'm curious to hear, how you have sustained, because again, I saw some stuff about you as far as modeling and your acting career. So I'm curious to see how you've maintained your own health and wellness with vegetarianism throughout your whole career. So has that been an issue with you when you travel or you're going to certain sets and different experiences with your own, diet.
When I was growing up, I had a lot of people challenging me. Oh, you're a vegetarian, that's why you're so slim and you're so thin. And, they would pass all these comments, but I just gave it a deaf ear and a blind eye. I didn't want to even get into that space, because I knew that somewhere it was a very conscious move. I saw a lot of spirituality in becoming a vegetarian. For me, I think the first thing that hit me was that my aunt told me that when an animal is being dragged, to be killed, there is a lot of negative juices being produced in the animal, a lot of negative energies being produced in that animal. There is so much of resilience and so much of struggle going on. It doesn't want to die. But when it is killed in that state, all these negative energies are getting locked into the cells of that, the animal body. And then you consume that body and you consume that energy into yourself. So the subtle energy and that negative energy eventually gets into your aura. And that's exactly what these ancient manuscripts, the Vedic manuscripts, spoke about. Ayurveda actually divided food into 3 categories. The first was sattvic food, which was supposed to be positive food which had positive energy. The second category was rajasic food which is known to cause inertia and laziness. And the third was tamasic food, which is food that can cause negative energy, maybe anger, restlessness, and you just don't know why. You consume this food, you get this energy into yourself, and you just feel different about yourself. So, and that's why exactly, I think when I made this change, I saw a lot of, channels opening. I thought, I found myself becoming more spiritual, and first it was, of course, about protecting animal rights. I was too young, actually. I was just 11. I just knew that I was doing something right that I would be proud of when I look back. I knew that when I grow up and I look back, I would know that, yes, I made the right choice. And rightly so, I have. So that was my story. And in India, it's definitely not hard to become a vegetarian. In fact, I see a lot of people. Do you also see a lot of people making that change, like very off late, especially after COVID? Do you see a lot of people wanting to become vegetarians or vegan?
Yeah, absolutely. I think right now it's very up and coming again. It's trending. People don't often know what to eat. So that's kind of why I started my platform, is to just help educate people, like put out content that will help people understand these are the foods to eat, showing them what I eat every day, showing them what I eat for recovery, for performance. I think it's great that you talk about the spiritual sense, because I do believe in the energy shifts, right? Like us consuming another being or another creature's energy for our own supply, and then that, lowering our vibrations, right? Lowering our vibrational pull toward other things.
Yeah. My
friend had described it, the one that kind of intrigued me about veganism, or getting into veganism. And he said, if I believed in Christianity. And I said, I believe in the concept of there being a place where you go in the afterlife that is good and the place that is bad, right? So if I believe in these 2 places, then there's a person in each of these places. So if animals were to look at us and to see, like, where are they right now? Like, if they had to, like, look at us through a lens, and we are in the bad place, right? Like, the animals are in the bad place because they're being tortured, they're being hurt, they're being harmed, they're being mass produced. So we obviously are, like, humans, to their knowledge, are the devils behind this operation, right? And I know, like, some people might look at that, and I get it on social media all the time, and they might laugh at that concept, but it really is just looking at good and evil at the end of the day, right? And if you can look in your heart and say that this is good, then there might need to be some sense of self-reflection and self-awareness that needs to happen, because this can't be good, right? This mass production, this killing of animals, the harming of these animals and taking them from their families, right? Like their respective groups, So, I always like to think like, what is the good and evil behind this, right? Like, how can you see that? Because if you can see that as just from a human, that's a human experience. We know what is good and what's bad.
And people know that. They see it. They see it every day. When they're driving their cars, they see it every day. Like a bunch of chickens stacked together in this little truck kind of a vehicle, and they just put blinders on and they eat because they're giving in to their taste buds. I should share this with our audience that what happened with me was that the first 1 year I would look at meat, it would be tempting, and then I would resist. So there was this resistance that happened. But after that, there came a point where I would look at meat, I would not get tempted. Maybe in 2 years, that shift took place. But then there came another shift where I would look at meat and it would look like, it would just be very bad sight for me. So of course, today if I go out with people and they're non-vegetarians, they're my friends, and I don't make a face, or I make them comfortable with their meal. I give them that respect. So that's my whole story, and that's how it took, for me to become a vegetarian finally. So
it's a progression,
It's absolutely a progression, and you just cannot do it in one snap. It takes time. Probably it may take longer for other people to cut off suddenly and become vegetarians. You could maybe just start with eggs and maybe with fish. That's what I do. You will not believe this. My parents are still non-vegetarians. They still consume meat. And my mom, of course, because I'm not into eating non-vegetarian food, so she has cut down on the meat, but she sticks to fish more than meat rather. So yeah, I mean, slowly I'm hoping I see that day when my mom turns a vegetarian.
Yeah. I mean, we're the examples, I would even say the same for my mom. She is becoming more conscious. My dad is becoming more conscious. Originally, I was the oddball out, but now I'm, again, the vessel, right? Like, just like you are the vessel, creating your own human experience and other people learning from that. Like you said, when you go out to dinner, you give respect for your friends. You allow them to have their space. Because it's not up to us to say, like, hey, what are you doing eating that, right? That's not our job. Like, it's up to them to follow through with their own journey of commitment to themselves and consciousness in order to make certain decisions that are going to benefit them. And I can't always say that I think it's going plant-based, but I think, again, it's becoming more conscious. Some people might comment on my posts and they say, like, well, we know all this stuff is going on. But then there's other people that comment on my post that consume meat and they have no clue about any of this. People are talking about eating just meat, like raw meat right now, by themselves. Most of these people are actually hunting their meat, which is a completely different conversation, a completely different concept, right?
Right. Also, there was an ecologist who, spoke to me about how much water and how much food can be saved if the planet turns vegetarian. Now, you can imagine how much of water is being used on these animals to, feed them, bathe them, how much of grains is being used and consumed by animals to first get fed, and then they're being killed to be on a human plate, right? So nobody thinks about that. Nobody thinks about how much water we can save if we only turn vegetarians, and how much food the world can have if, it's not being consumed by these animals who are eventually getting killed to be our one-time meal. Vegetarianism is all about conscious living. Because you're going to live, this is what I feel, this is my take. I feel you're going to live only for like 50, 60, 70 years, max 80. But it's just a limited period. And you have to make that choice. Because I feel that right and wrong are universal. You cannot customize or manipulate wrong to feel it right. Right? So you cannot wear blinders and do things because, okay, it gives me pleasure, it gives pleasure to my taste buds, I'm doing it. That is what I think is karma for me on planet Earth. Conscious living for me is karma. And that's exactly why we made the choice, I made the choice, he's made the choice, and I really hope that my audience today anybody who's been intrigued about veganism, vegetarianism has got some insight into it today. And thank you, Mylique. Thank you so much for this interview. You're like an encouraging force for a lot of youth. Looking at you, you know, the whole myth that, oh, you cannot have a body like this if you're a vegetarian, you burst that bubble, you know. So I'm really glad that there are people like you who exist today in this world, and let's continue encouraging more people.
Again, thank you for having me. This is a great conversation, opened up a lot of great points for people that are interested in going vegan or going vegetarian or just learning about plant-based eating, you know, understanding the journey and what's to come within the journey. So yes, thank you.
Thank you so much. Thank you so much.